Back at it. So there's a lake beside us here, hard to see through the trees. This is Bunty Lake. I think you'll see a little bit of it here at the end. Telegraph pole. You see a little bit of the lake in there. Oh, that wind cold. That wind is cold. Okay, 28 kilometers. Maybe 6 more, 7 more. Oh. You can see these areas, I mentioned this before, these areas where you get these blowdowns. Piece of telegraph pole there. So it's almost like you get these little microbursts and it just like flattens a section of trees, right? And the problem here is on the Canadian Shield is that the soil is very thin. So when they get hit, they just rip up because the roots aren't very deep. Another telegraph pole. Got a section of poles here. There's one there. There's one up there. There's the sun, and now you can see all the light and dark here. Hopefully the camera in HDR is evening it out. Telegraph pole somewhere around here. Yeah, right there. Oh, my butt. There's one back there. And there's one here. I have one of my loyal viewers, Mike, loves to see those standing telegraph poles. There's another one there. You gotta be getting close to the next lake. It's got to be here soon. Oh, easy butt. They soar in the saddle. I'm gonna be sore after doing 3 days of this. Little bit of rock work here, just a itty bitty little piece. They just took off the nose. Just tickle it. Little Penguins of Madagascar reference for you. Okay, let's get it. So here again, you can see that examples of that blowdown, right? Again, probably some sort of microburst or something, right? Because you get these pockets. And basically the whole way along here, and even further to the south on the, you know, by Quorn and Petrie, same thing. So here you can see telegraph pole. Obviously the bottom cross arm's been taken out. Pole here. nice little section of telegraph poles. No signage or anything. Coming up to another rock cut or a cut or something here. 30 kilometers we've done. Oh, perfect. So what we have here is we have a rail holder. Is that what I have marked here? Yeah. There's one, and theirs looks like the mate for it. So again, these would have been located every mile on the grade. And so essentially they're a little triangular shaped piece of concrete, and there's a metal cap on the top. And what they would have done is they would have used them to pre-spot pieces of rail here and there on the grade so that they would be available. Again, I don't know who did them. I don't know if it was Grand Trunk, Canadian Government Railways, Canadian National Railways, but they certainly are neat to see. You can see one, and I think these are the pieces of another one here. Okay, so let's hold up here for a second, and then we'll continue momentarily. All right, we're going through a cut here. We got to be getting close to the next lake, and then after that lake we're on to the English River. You can see again another more blowdown here, so you can just see this jumble of trees, right? So it's just like this massive gust of wind hit this spot and just completely messed up the trees here. More telegraph poles. And back into the sun. So you can see here how it just rips out. The soil is so thin, it just pulls the whole root ball out because the roots have to run sideways instead of down. Right, you can see it here how it just pulls up the roots. There's another telegraph pole. And there's another one here. Where's that lake? There's another pole here. So we're into another cut here again. Very sandy area. You can see the jack pines. And of course the sun pops out. So again, it appears that they dug material out of here. Most likely very early on. So when this line was built, it was built between 1905 and 1908. I actually forgot to do my history lesson. Oh man. Well, why don't we do it now? How many episodes deep? We got thrown off there because we had the spur, the Selwyn Mill spur right off the hop. So let's talk about this. So this line was constructed by Grand Trunk Pacific Railway between 1905 and 1908. It was going to be an attempt by the Grand Trunk Company, which was one of the oldest railway companies in Canada, dating back to the 1850s, to construct a second transcontinental line across the country. Now, for Grand Trunk, unfortunately, based on the experience of Canadian Pacific building a transcontinental line, they were not particularly keen about building a line across the country because of the financial cost, because of the effort that would be involved. So they tried to form a partnership with the Canadian government, and there was a lot of years of negotiations, a lot of years of back and forth, until finally they came up with an agreement. So again, construction, this section, which was a branch line, was one of the first pieces to come under construction in 1905, again completed in November of 1908. Eventually the entire line was built, and so the agreement between the Canadian government and Grand Trunk was that the Grand Trunk was going to build the eastern portion of a transcontinental line, everything from Winnipeg, sorry, the western portion, everything from Winnipeg to Prince Rupert on the Pacific coast, under the name Grand Trunk Pacific. And the Canadian government was going to build the eastern portion from Winnipeg to New Brunswick under the name National Transcontinental. And then once the line was completed, it was going to be operated by Grand Trunk. Now, unfortunately, once the line was completed, Grand Trunk backed out of the agreement because they were having all kinds of financial issues and they did not want to basically run the NTR. So now the Canadian government's got this railway line that they don't have anybody to operate. So what they did was they basically created their own company called the Canadian Government Railways to operate the line. And so that took effect in 1915. So in July of 1915, because this line again was a branch line, it was built to give the system access to Lake Superior. So basically, because it connected to the NTR, it was leased by the Canadian Government Railways. So in July of 1915, the name of the line changed. It was originally the Lake Superior branch, or the Lake Superior division of Grand Trunk Pacific, and it became the Fort William and Raith subdivisions of Canadian Government Railways. So it operated under the Canadian Government Railways umbrella until late 1918, when the Canadian government merged, amalgamated, whatever you want to call it, Canadian Government Railways and Canadian Northern Railway into one entity, and that became Canadian National Railways. So in January of 1919, the name of this line changed. It became the Fort William and Raith subdivisions of Canadian National Railways, and then later that year the name changed again. It became the Fort William and Raith subdivision, the Lake Superior subdivision of Canadian National. Now around that time, not long after CN took over, they began looking at sort of rationalizing their lines, because coming west out of Thunder Bay, at the time Fort William, they had basically two duplicated lines for the first 30 miles. They had this line and then the former Canadian Northern line, which had become the CN Kashibawi subdivision. So what they decided to do was they decided to basically double the Kashibawi subdivision up to a place called Conwy Junction. And then at Conwy Junction, they built a new bridge across the Matawan River. And so basically the two lines, the Graham subdivision, eventually becomes the Graham subdivision in 1922. The Graham subdivision and the Kashibawi subdivision share the same track to Conwy Junction, then they split, and the Graham subdivision continues on this line. Now, eventually they decided that they were going to abandon the eastern portion of the former Grand Trunk line. So in 1924, they split the line into two. They split it into the Crest and the Graham subdivision. And then in 1925, they split it into three: the Crest, the Raith, and the Quorn subdivision. And that spring, they made plans, and eventually happened in the fall time, that the Crest subdivision was abandoned, and the line operated as the Quorn, the Raith, and the Quorn subdivision. Sorry, I'm discombobulated here. The Raith and the Quorn subdivisions until 1931, when it reverted back to the Graham subdivision, and then continued as such until 1994, when the line was abandoned by CN. So what we're going to do is we're going to pause here, and then we're going to work our way through this cut. We pre-recorded this morning, so we're going to use that pre-recording. All right, here we go through this rock cut. The sky is starting to clear, which is not very helpful to us, so we're going to try to pre-record this cut. So you can see it's not particularly high, maybe 7 or 8 feet at the most. It is quite lengthy though. Again, you can see the nature of the rock. It's all kind of layered. The sky is clearing very, very fast. I was hoping that it would last longer, but no such luck. So here the cut starts to peter out, and then right here eventually comes to an end.